वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। One second, I'm just checking my. We have been seeing the diagnostic tools of the present quality of the mind and intellect. What is the present nature and what is the present quality that one has with reference to their own mind and their own intellect. We have seen a couple of diagnostic tools, and we are going to look into another very important diagnostic tool now, where the ungoverned mind modifies into negative emotions. That's what we are going to see now. The ungoverned mind modifies. It is the ungoverned mind that turns into negative emotions, for which we go back to we mentally refer to the definition of what the mind is. Mind being made up of desires. We saw that in the definition of the mind, we saw that. The moment there is a desire, a few possibilities arise with the desire, which we will see it in the board. The moment there is the desire, immediately comes a few possibilities. The few possibilities that comes with the desire is, yeah, you can see that. Ungoverned mind modifies into negative emotions. So you see the desire. A desire has three possibilities. One is unfulfilled. The other one is suppressed. The third one is fulfilled. Now, if you see all this, every possibility ultimately results in mental agitation and self-destruction. We'll see that at the end, because it is there are a few more that also has to come on the board. Venkat, adim potrunga. A few more is there. So if you see the desire, the complete chart, let this chart be on for a few minutes and then we will take it out. So the desire has three possibilities. One you can see as desire suppressed, resulting in frustration. And then you see desire unfulfilled, resulting in disappointment. And then comes fulfilled. What happens when fulfilled? A few possibilities arises. So Why it is red color? Na? Because it is danger. Therefore, it is put in red color. All will be white and thing only. We never use the red color. But now the red color is because it is danger. So you can straight away see the disappointment, frustration, fear, greed, anger, arrogance, envy. All these negative emotions arises out of this ungoverned mind. And the root of all this is called the desire. So whenever a person experiences a frustration, a disappointment, a fear, a anger, a arrogance, envy, mental agitation, confusion, intellectual delusion is intellectual confusion. And all this finally results in self-destruction. This is the chart. And now we will see it one by one. And then we will see wherever the chart is necessary, I will refer to the chart, but otherwise you can remember the chart. Now, ungoverned mind modifies into negative emotions. All starts from desire. Invariably, the first possibility is suppression. People suppress their desires. When desires are suppressed, it turns into, when desires are suppressed, it turns into a frustration. We understand that frustration is not a good state to be in. Therefore, they say there's no point in suppressing it. So, go all out to fulfill it. If you don't suppress it, what do? Go all out to fulfill it. Now, what happens when you go all out to fulfill it? The first thing that you will face when you are trying to fulfill your desire is an obstruction to that. And that obstruction is standing in between you and you wanting to fulfill the desire. And wherever there is an obstruction, there will be an anger towards that obstruction. There will be an anger towards that obstruction. And what is that anger? Anger is an attitude to destroy the obstruction. Anger is the attitude to destroy the obstruction. That's why if you see, anger subsides only after you destroy something. If you have observed, you can always see anger subsides after you destroy something. And what is it that you destroy? You can see that, no, either people crush a piece of paper or bang the phone or something they keep doing, that even to an extent where if they don't have anything to destroy, they will go and bang their head against the wall, isn't it? They don't have anything that they can crush. If they don't have anything that they can destroy, they go and bang their head against the wall or hit themselves. All this is an expression of anger, nothing but turning you destructive. So anger makes a person destructive. And what is the cause for anger? The cause for anger is there is a desire that you are trying to fulfill and something is obstructing it. And you want to eliminate that obstruction. You want to be free from that obstruction. And you don't want that obstruction again in your life. Therefore, what is anger? An attitude to destroy the obstruction. You can destroy one, another pops up. You can destroy one, another pops up. And then there is this whole talk about anger management. How does one manage the Anger. And what happens out of anger? Out of anger, you say things that you should not say, you do things that you should not do, and then regret, and then apologize. And the very fact that you have to regret and apologize hurts you more. 1 week later, what will happen? Another cycle of anger will start. The first indicator in the importance diagnostic tool that we are seeing today is how frequent are these emotions, how intense are these emotions, and how much is the recovery time from these emotions that you take. That will be the next chart. I'm not showing it now, but both are combined. How frequent are these 6? How intense are they? And what is the time you take to recover from these 6? Shows how weak or how strong your intellect is. So another diagnostic tool that explains the importance of intellect. Because everybody wants freedom from these emotions, isn't it? Nobody wants to be a victim of these emotions. Nobody is happy with these emotions. Everybody wants freedom from these emotions. And the way to gain freedom from these emotions is to go to the root of the problem. You go to the root of the problem and handle this problem. What is the root? Desire. And we have seen 2 things. What we have seen already, desire suppressed turns into frustration. And frustration leads to agitation, destruction. If desire remains unfulfilled, that leads to disappointments. And disappointment leads to mental agitations, intellectual delusion, self-destruction. Now we are looking at the third possibility that is also happening. What is the third possibility? Fulfillment. The third possibility is fulfillment. So you are making an attempt to fulfill the desires. You have to make an attempt to fulfill the desires. You can't suppress it. You can't keep it unfulfilled. You have to make an attempt to fulfill it. Now, when you make an attempt to fulfill it, what happens? The first thing that you always face is an obstruction. What is anger? Anger is an attitude to destroy the obstruction. From this, we understand whenever anybody gets angry, the cause of anger is something that is obstructing the fulfillment of your desire. Are you able to follow? So, whenever a person, the anger could be anything. Traffic jam causes anger, no? What they call as road rage, and the murder happens because of this road rage. Why? He is in a hurry to go for the meeting. Some important meeting, that person is in a hurry to go, which is very important as far as that person is concerned. But the world totality is not bothered about your hurry, no. The world is not bothered about your hurry. The world is not bothered about your thing. You may call it as higher or lower. You may call it as important or unimportant. The reality of life is different. Intellect aligns its life with the reality. Mind wants to align life according to its desire. This is a fundamental difference between knowledge and ignorance. Intellect aligns the life with the reality of life, the principles, the laws of life. When I say laws, means not LOSS, LAWS. Sound alikes, no, both sounds the same. Laws, both sounds the same. Sometimes I think I have to take a pronunciation lesson from Shashi Tharoor, because he is the one who pronounces it so beautifully, the differences. And I tried quite a few times, it didn't come at all. So whenever I say loss, I spell it out also. LAWS, not LOSS. So intellect is that which aligns the life along with the laws of life, the realities of life. Mind is that which wants to align life according to its own likes and dislikes, exaggerations, expectations, etc. This function of the mind causes mental agitations, intellectual delusion, ultimately resulting in self-destruction. So what you got to understand is each and every negative emotion has a possibility to completely destroy. And the human mind is a victim of all these emotions. Anger, and anger subsides after you, we are discussing anger. Anger subsides after you destroy something. You destroy it, another obstruction starts. You destroy that, another obstruction will come. For the nature of the world is not to create obstructions. It exists and it appears as obstructions to you. Please understand this. This is what intellect is. The world is not interested in creating and obstructing my desire and cause anger and suffer. World doesn't have any intention to cause suffering to me. I create my own suffering. That is Vedanta. You create your own suffering by not managing your mind is the theme. Inner wellness. 7 sessions and I didn't go into the topic inner wellness only, isn't it? What is inner wellness? Unless you know what the mind is and what intellect is, if the basic things are not taught, it is very difficult to understand this inner wellness. And what is this inner wellness? Inner wellness is nothing but you cause your own agony and pain. Since you are the cause of your agony and pain, you can solve it. Since you are the one who's causing all these negative emotions and sufferings to yourself, you alone can achieve freedom from it. For everybody wants freedom from these emotions. Everybody wants this freedom. So what is the first one that we all want freedom from? Freedom from frustration, freedom from disappointment. The third one is freedom from anger. Why? Because it destroys your peace and it destroys your relationships. Because you say things that you should not say, you do things that you should not do, all results in anger. You manage your anger and all that, desire is fulfilled. What happens? Happiness comes, correct? Okay, you manage your anger, you manage your anger, you manage your disappointments, you manage your frustrations, and then your desire is fulfilled. What happens? Obvious, happiness comes, isn't it? No. Happiness doesn't come. Fear comes. Happiness is so temporary and the fear is so permanent. What is the fear? The fear of losing it. The fear of losing it. So you manage to get it. As soon as you get it, what comes along with it? The fear of losing it. And carefully follow. The fear of losing it is not an imaginary fear, right? It is the reality. You will lose. What you will lose? What is the fear of losing? It is not the fear of losing the object. It is the fear of losing the happiness that you get out of it. Are you able to follow? Again, I repeat. It is, you don't fear losing the object. You fear losing the happiness that you are going to get out of it. And that fear is a valid fear. And that fear has a legitimacy. Why? Because by the law of neutralization, your happiness starts diminishing. Your happiness starts diminishing. Have you ever observed that the joy, the hope and the joy that you derive from you going to get it versus actually getting it. The thought of buying the car is more joyful than the actual car in your parking. Do you know that? Because you buy the car, next morning 50% of the joy content is gone. Third week, no joy at all. But month after month, EMI is coming, no? So what is happening? The car has come, the happiness went away, and what has come along with the car now? The fear of the EMI debt. So what do you lose here? You don't lose the car. It's not about the fear of losing the object. It is about the fear of losing the happiness that you get from it. Fear, the fear of losing. And this fear of losing makes a person goes through mental agitations, delusion, self-destruction. The fear of losing. Not having it causes pain. Having it causes fear. This is how the mind creates its own web of agitations. The mind creates its own web of agitations by saying at one point of time it will tell you that not having it is a problem. At another point of time it will tell you having it is the problem. So at one point of time you want to have it, at another point of time you want to get rid of it also. The fourth one is the fear of losing. Okay, somehow you manage the fear and you keep it. What happens next? You buy it, you are happy, you have managed the fear, everything is all right, and then next morning, your friend will send you a WhatsApp link. What is it? The new model has come. Next morning, the new model has come. That's it. Now, all the happiness and joy has gone from this model, and this looks very old. And you got to go for the next one. Greed starts. The greed comes. And the greed drives you to. And what does greed does? Greed somehow will drive you to try any method or all possible methods to get it. What are the all possible methods? There are only three methods, they say, no? What is that? Beg, borrow, steal. Beg, borrow, you beg, you borrow, you steal, doesn't, but then the greed. The moment you achieve something, the moment you get something, what comes along with it? Arrogance and envy. Arrogance towards those who are lower. Envious about them who are higher. So, disappointment, frustration, fear, greed, anger, arrogance, envy. These are all the negative emotions of the mind because it is not governed. The mind by itself doesn't turn into all these seven. Please understand that. The mind by itself doesn't convert itself into the seven. The mind that is not governed turns into this. It's like The child by itself doesn't turn bad. The child that is not parented properly, the child that is not governed properly turns into destructive child, isn't it? Child by itself doesn't turn bad. It is the lack of guidance, it is the lack of governance, and mind is equated to the child. And that child has to be properly parented, the child has to be properly governed. Indications a human being is a victim of these emotions are the indicator. What are the indicator? That your emotions, your mind is ungoverned. From this, a beautiful corollary we derive. The beautiful corollary we derive is, if you understand this rightly, you will stop blaming the world for all your mental agitations, and you will know where to correct. This is the corollary we derive from this. The corollary that we derive from this analysis is, you know that where is the problem located? Is the problem internal or is the problem external? And Vedanta says the problem is not external, the problem is internal. And how do we say that the problem is internal? Everybody says mind is the problem, mind is the problem, look within yourself, go into yourself and change yourself. Everybody says that. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 62-63, he explains this. This chart is nothing but verses 62 and 63 of chapter 2 Bhagavad Gita. Step by step, he explains the fall there. How a human being falls step by step. So, anger, we understood it as desire intercepted. Fear is about the loss. The fear is always about the loss. Do you know, the actual loss will not hurt you that much. The fear of you going to lose it is a painful thing. That's why it is called not the actual loss, it is the fear of losing. You should know the difference between the two. If you have actually lost it, you know that you have lost it. You can quickly reconcile and you will move on. But then the fear is what? In case if I lose it, in case if I lose it, in case if I lose it. The fear. And what is this? What is the desire? What is the very nature of desire? The very nature of desire is towards enjoyment. The very nature of desire is towards enjoy. You can call it enjoyment, you can call it peace, you can call it happiness, you can call it satisfaction, you can call it bliss, you can call it any word you can use. All are synonyms. All are used very synonymously. So what is the desire? Desire is nothing but seeking happiness. To put it in a very simple way, what is desire? Desire is nothing but seeking happiness. When we say seeking happiness, it is implied that you are unhappy now. When I am seeking something, it means I am lacking it now. I am not having it. Either I am not having it or I am not having enough. Either way doesn't make a difference. Are you able to follow? Either people say I don't have it or I don't have enough. And most of the time it belongs to the second category. I don't have enough. That's where Swamiji in the lectures he keeps saying, when is enough? When is enough enough? That does, is there a point existing like that? At one point of time, you want to acquire. At one point of time, you want to acquire. When you are 30 and 40, you want to acquire. At 60 and 70 also, you want to acquire. But the purposes of acquisition differs. Desire, technically, it's called raga and dvesha. Technically, it's called raga dvesha. Raga means a thirst for something that you don't have. That's called raga. Dvesha means having something that you don't want to have. That is dvesha. Again, I repeat. It's very. I'm not getting into the. No. All of you must get into proper study of Vedanta. That's why we are giving this introduction. Yeah. And this is more like a first aid treatment. And don't get satisfied by the first aid treatment. You have to take the proper course of treatment. And most of the people get satisfied with the first aid only. But then the disease still exists. You follow what I'm saying? So this is more like a first aid, so that you go for the proper course of treatment. So when you go to the proper course of treatment, you will study in detail about this raga, dvesha, etc. Today, I'm only giving you in a in a way that you can understand and apply it straight away. What is raga? Raga means a thirst for something that you don't have, and having that will give you happiness. That's called raga. Again, I repeat. Raga means a thirst for something that you do not have, and you believe having that will give you happiness. That's raga. Dvesha. What is dvesha? You don't want to have that and you want to get rid of that. That's called dvesha. So all acquisition is driven by raga and dvesha. The first half of your life, your acquisition is for raga. The second half of your life, your acquisition is for dvesha. What does dvesha means? As soon as the person reaches 60, 65, what do they start worrying about? Don't worry about children, grandchildren and all. First worry is medical bills, isn't it? Medical bills. And nowadays, even for one normal infection, you go to the hospital, all your 30 years of savings is gone. You have a dvesha for, you have a hatred for disease, and you do not want it, and you want to acquire so that when it comes, you can handle it. Are you able to follow? What is desire? Desire is raga and dvesha. So you need wealth to get what you want. You need wealth to get rid of something that you don't want. This is called acquisition, resulting in enjoyment. Instead of knowing how to go about it properly, what human being does, they approach it so unscientifically, they approach it so illogically, and that approach results in negative emotions. And that approach is resulting in these negative emotions. And what are these negative emotions? Anger, fear, arrogance, envy, etc. These are the negative emotions that arise out of it. You want something because you believe having it will give you happiness. Correct? You want it. Why do you want it? Not for the sake of it. You want it because having it will give you happiness. You can call it happiness, you can call it peace, you can call it contentment, all synonyms. So a person goes all out in acquiring that. And the thought of getting it is so The thought of getting it is more joyful than the actual getting. The thought of going on a holiday is more joyful than the actual holiday, correct? The thought of you going on a tour is more joyful than the actual tour. Why? Because in the actual tour, so many things doesn't go in your way. You book the room, you go into the hotel, the fellow will say, yes, sir, come, we will give you a welcome drink, and they are straight taking you to the restaurant, not to your room. You understand what? Your room is not it. You understand the room is not ready, and you are so tired that you just want to go on. So many things that goes wrong in the holiday makes you suffer the holiday, and the actual joy comes from where? From the imaginary happiness that you are going to get on the holiday. All happiness born of imagination. And that imagination is ungoverned mind, and that imagination modifies into frustration, disappointment, fear, greed, anger, arrogance, envy. What is this arrogance and envy? What is this arrogance? I'm giving simple example so that you can remember. Otherwise, in the normal classes, we take fear one whole session, anger one whole session. We do. Here, we are not going to that details. When you come there, you will be studying all that. And what is arrogance? Arrogance is nothing but, you can observe it in you. When somebody comes to you asking for help, what mask you put? When you go and ask a favor from somebody, what mask you put? That's all. When somebody comes asking to you for a favor, for a help, what is the mask you put? Now, don't tell me, you need to know it for yourself. This is more of self-analysis. That's why we call it as self-diagnosis. Not, I'm not interested in knowing how you react. But then we call it a self-diagnosis because you can do it for yourself. When somebody comes to you asking for a favor, what is the mask you put? When you go to somebody asking for a favor, what is the mask you put? When I go to somebody asking for a favor, I put the best mask, isn't it? I'm smiling. I am taking gifts. I'm trying to be very, I'm careful about using the right word, everything, because I am asking for a, when somebody asks for a favor from me, you can instantly see the mask changing, isn't it? But you should have come 3 weeks back only, no? We go into so many arrogant attitude. Why? Because temporarily you are in a position of giver, and somebody is in the position of the receiver. That is arrogance. And what is envy? Envy is nothing but jealous. What is jealous? What you want, somebody else is having. That is jealous. You want it, you are not having it, and someone else is having what you want. So what is your emotion towards that person? You will not go and say congratulations, isn't it? I don't have, at least you are having it. I'm happy for you. Congratulations. And if you walk out, you are free from envy. Able to follow? But then what is jealous? You want something, and what you want, someone else is having. And the emotion that you have towards that someone who has what you want is called jealous. And Shakespeare says, jealousy, the green-eyed monster. Jealousy, the green-eyed monster. It's monster it is. All these emotions, we call them negative. All these emotions, we call them negative. Why we call them negative? Because it produces mental agitations. Positive emotions are those that brings in peace and tranquility and calmness. That which brings peace, tranquility and calmness is positive emotions. That which bring in agitations, worry and anxiety is called negative emotions. And nobody needs to call it as negative. You know that it is negative. Why? Because you are disturbed and you want to get away from it. You are disturbed and you want freedom from this. Ultimately, all this leads to mental agitations. What is mental agitations? Mental agitations means a restlessness. What is agitation? A, a, a kind of disturbed, restless state. In the definition of the mind, we saw that as asthira and chanchala. When we saw the definitions of the mind, we saw that from where does this restlessness and all come from? Restlessness comes from the negativities. And negativities is because of the mind not being governed. The restlessness is because the mind not being governed, monitored. So what is the actual diagnosis now? Go to the next chart. You go to the next chart, you can see it very clearly. The frequency, the intensity and recovery. Always remember this, sir. Always remember this. To know your current status, ask yourself, your own experiences will teach you this. What is this? What is the frequency of your anger? Frequency means how repetitive it is. That is frequency. How often it comes again and again and again. It's anger. That's called frequency. Intensity means how strong it is. The third one is recovery. How much time you take to recover. From what? Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya, Dvesha. We have put the Sanskrit names here. In the previous chart, we gave the English names. Anger, greed, arrogance, envy, fear, and bitter. A very important diagnostic tool to know where you stand. So ask, what is the frequency of anger? At least I get angry thrice a day, sir. But I get angry only for right reasons. People say that. I get angry only for right reasons. I get angry. Otherwise, I don't get angry at all, sir. I get angry only. No, I can't. I can't stand people being selfish, sir. That causes anger. Is that wrong? Anger is wrong. Doesn't matter whatever it is, because at the end of the day, you are agitated. Right reasons. There's no right reason, wrong reason. Anger is the frequency of anger. How frequent the anger is. And the intensity of it. And you will not know the intensity because you are so caught up in that, you will never know the intensity. That is why you have to ask somebody to, you should ask somebody to shoot a video of you and you should see that video. The intensity of it, isn't it? Because you will not know that, no. So next time what you should do, ask, don't do all this literally, yeah? Please. Disclaimer, if you do any of these things, we are not responsible for it. Disclaimer. Venkat, disclaimer potrungo. Yeah, put the disclaimer also. Or if anything, if you practice anything and get into any knowledge, don't blame Vedanta inner wellness class and we will not take responsibility. So, how do you know the intensity? You can never know the intensity. See, the intensity of the diseases, you can go to the lab, isn't it? You can do a blood test. You can do the pathology, histopathology test. You can do scanning. You can do this. You can do that, and you can know the intensity of the disease. Now here, how can you know the intensity of the disease? You have to have proper diagnostic tools. So you should know the diagnostic tool is what is the intensity of it? How intense are they? Fear, I get so afraid, sir, that I just can't sleep. That's all. Otherwise, I'm all right. Otherwise, I'm all right. But fear doesn't make me to sleep at all. Even after taking 2 pills to sleep. I have taken 2 pills to sleep and still the eyes are wide awake. Fear. All these put together in one word called insecurity. All this put together in one word is called insecurity. You cannot be a insecure, contented person. Can you? You cannot be an angry, peaceful person. Is it possible? You can't be a envious, good friend. How is it possible? Are you able to follow? All these emotions takes away the virtues that you want to practice. All these emotions takes away those virtues that you wanted to practice. So the diagnostic tool with reference to the mind is the frequency, the intensity, and the recovery. To understand it easily, you can put it as FIR, isn't it? At least FIR, isn't it? Not that police FIR, frequency, intensity, and recovery. This kind of FIR you can put. Because in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asks this, what is the frequency of it? What is the intensity of it? What is the time you take to recover from it? Sometimes the anger goes into generations, no? Isn't it? One grandfather would have fought with another grandfather, and the grandchildren, great grandchildren also will continue the fight, isn't it? And they will say, we are all parampara vairi, sir. We are. Yeah. We are enemies for, yeah, as though it is a Nobel Prize or something, isn't it? For the intensity it can be so intense that it can cross over generations. Technically, the intensity is so strong that it can come over many janmas, and the recovery time takes that long. So what is the indicator that you are gaining knowledge? The frequency reduces, the intensity reduces, recovery time is faster. Now we are able to connect what knowledge does and what intellect does. The frequency of this will be less. The intensity of it for all this will not die down straight away, because it cannot die down straight away. It has to be a gradual decrease. So gradually is it decreasing or gradually is it increasing? The same tool can be used to identify the increase or decrease. The tool is the same. What is it? The frequency, the intensity, and the recovery. I don't have any fear, sir. Only fear is after death, what will happen? After death, what will happen? For a young person, that fear will not happen. For an old person, there will not be any other fear other than this. What will happen after death? A few people ask me, what will happen after death, sir? I say, whatever happened before birth will happen. What happened before birth is what will happen after death. What is there to fear? But then fear happens. But then fear arises. Of all these, two dangerous, anger and fear. Of all these, anger and fear, all are dangerous. All are dangerous. It's not all can be given equal price, because all are equally dangerous. But of all these, that which happens very frequently, that which a human being experiences very frequently is the anger and fear. You can get angry at the dead person also, no? Sometimes you see, no, the fellow is dead and gone, but they will still sit and they will still mentally rip open that person, isn't it? The fellow is in a hurry to go for the meeting. Monday morning is going, a funeral procession comes and traffic jam. That happens only here, isn't it? It won't happen most of the other countries. It happens here. And a funeral procession comes and the whole traffic is jam. And you get angry at the person who died. So why this fellow has to die? He could have died 2 days before, no? Or he could have died 2 days later. No, why these fellows have to die now? For anything and everything can cause anger. Misunderstanding is the person believe that the external situation is causing the anger. What Vedanta comes and says is, it is not the external situation that is causing the anger, it is your own mind that is causing it. Because when you really don't want to go on time, you finish the work and you don't want to go to house on time, isn't it? Too much of problem. So you wish some funeral procession happens, you wish some traffic jam happens, isn't it? So the same situation causes anger at one point of time. The same situation, you are remaining thankful at another point of time. It means the situation being the same, what is causing anger or the opposite of anger? It is not the situation, it's your mind. That's the conclusion. Are you able to follow now? Situation being the same, it is causing like that because it is your own mind. And how does one understand that? That's why this chart is very important. It's a very useful practical tool. The frequency of the 6, the intensity of the 6, and the recovery time you take from the 6. When you are able to recover faster means the intensity of the disease is not strong. If the recovery time is taking longer means the intensity of the disease is a bit stronger. And no need to whip yourself for that. No need to whip yourself for that. No need to punish yourself for that. For you understand that all this will be set right once the mind is brought under control. And how to bring the mind under control? Please understand there is only one method to bring the mind under control. For everybody comes up with their own solutions to bring the mind under control. One person will say breathe in and breathe out. Mind will come under control. I said from birth to death you are breathing in and breathing out. It means mind should be under control automatically, isn't it? It's not that you forgot breathing in and breathing out, that you have to learn to breathe in and breathe out. No. Yes, it's a good exercise for the physical body. We are not denying that. But it has got nothing to do with the mind control. Another person will come and say, stand on your head for 20 minutes. Everything will come under control. Everybody comes up with their own methods to bring control to the mind. And Vedanta says all these are exercises that can give you a fit body, but has got nothing to do with the control of the mind. For the mind can be brought under control only by knowledge, intellect, strengthened by gaining knowledge. The only way the mind can be brought under control is not by any other method. One person says the only way to bring the mind under control is lectures, Vedanta, Lavana, sir. It's not needed. At the end of the day, have 2 pegs, 3 pegs. That's all. Mind is, you are happy. Why go through all the unnecessarily frequency, intensity, recovery? These fellows studied it and they have nothing else to do. They are coming and torturing us also with this. Another person will come and say, nothing needs to be done. Meditation. Height of ignorance is meditation. Meditation will bring your mind under control. Meditation will give you a very good sleep. And when you have a good sleep, automatically you feel like there is some kind of a peace, and that peace is misunderstood as mind under control. Again, I repeat. In meditation, you get a very good sleep. Next time when you go to meditation class, you don't meditate, you pretend as though you are meditating, and after 3 minutes, open your eyes and see what others are doing. Sometimes you can hear snoring also. Sometimes you can hear snorings also. Why? Because it gives you a very good sleep, and that sleep gives you a peace of mind, and that peace of mind is misunderstood as mind under control. Because as soon as you come out of the meditation session and take your car out, traffic jam, all the peace has gone and it comes back, isn't it? So everybody comes up with their own, somebody comes with indulgences as the solution for mental peace. Somebody will come and say, why bother about all this? Simply go out into the world and enjoy. Go for a holiday, have a drink, go for a trek, do this, do that, you'll be peaceful. Vedanta Allah, these fellows will keep talking like this only. Don't waste your time with all this. So one person comes and says, indulgences are the solution. Another person comes and says, yoga, pranayama, meditation, all these are the solution. Vedanta comes in very differently and asks you a very simple question. And with this, I conclude. Carefully follow the question and answer. If anybody has heard the question before, don't answer. Because there are people who have heard this question in some other also. They will, if you have heard it, don't answer. If you have not heard it, answer. Of the very many ways to remove darkness, there are very many ways to remove darkness, sir. Of the very many ways to remove darkness, bringing in light is one method. Correct? Yes or no? Again, I repeat the question. There are many ways to remove darkness. Darkness, you understand, no? See, don't get into spiritual darkness and all that. I'm talking about ordinary darkness. Ordinary darkness. Of the very many ways to remove darkness, one method is to bring in light. Yes or no? If anybody says yes, punishment is, again we'll start from session 1. Punishment is that. If you say yes, punishment is we'll go back to the first session. Answer is no. The only way to remove darkness is to bring in the light. Light is the only way to remove darkness. for there is no other way to remove darkness, correct? You can't sweep darkness away. You can't blow away darkness, isn't it? You can't talk about light in darkness. You can talk about light and still be in darkness. So what is the way to remove the darkness? Answer. Manasa. What is the way to remove darkness? Only one way, sir. And that only way is to bring in light. That's why this knowledge is called light. Light of knowledge. It's called the light of knowledge. And this knowledge brings about a clarity. And in that clarity, you get a freedom from these negativities. Knowledge brings about a clarity, and that clarity gets you a freedom from these negativities. And why we are calling it as negative? Because it is unpleasant to you, it causes disturbances to you, and you do not want it. In that sense, it is negative. It causes disturbances to you, it causes a lot of unpleasantness to you, and you want freedom from these. So, to summarize, 3 words. F, what is the diagnostics tool? With reference to the mind. And we have one more diagnostics tool with reference to the intellect, which we will do next class. And then we will summarize and conclude. I think today is the 7th session, isn't it? 6th or 7th? 7th session, and we have 3 more. So next session will be a diagnostics tool from the angle of the intellect. Till date, the previous class and today we saw the diagnostic tools from the angle of the mind. And all this 1 hour session, you can put it in 3 words. What are the 3 words? FIR. FIR means frequency, intensity, recovery. Frequency, intensity, recovery of what? Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya, Bhaya, Dvesha. Anger, greed, arrogance, envy, fear, hatred, bitterness. All this is because of the mind not being governed. It is not caused by the world. It is not caused by the external situation. It is not caused by the partner, by the children, by the neighbor, by the government, by the stars, by the horoscope, by the planets, by gods. Nobody causes all this. It is the mind not being governed is the reason. This is the message of Vedanta, the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, etc. The diagnostic. So remember it. FIR. Frequency, intensity, and recovery. With this, I conclude the session for today. If there are any clarifications, we will take it up. If there are no clarifications, we will. Is there any clarifications? Anything? Correct. Doubt because frequency, intensity, recovery, and solely you made us so depressed. What questions can come out of it? You should allow us to ask something. No, you made it sound so. So after the class, we go out and look ourselves, and the mirror we look like one Rakshasa with the horns and everything. Frequency, intensity. Now what questions will come? No questions will come. With this, we conclude for today, and we continue with the on the next session.
Someone has posted Subhash.
Oh, Subhash has posted. Sorry. Sorry. Subhash. Tell something about early wake up, sir. That is coming in the 9th session, but I'll tell you today. The time of the day is divided into 3: Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. the time is divided into three: the Sattvic, Rajasic, and the Tamasic. Sattvic time is the early hours of the morning, technically called as Brahma Muhurta. All knowledges that result in strengthening the intellect is done in the Brahma Muhurta between 4 and 6. Rajas is from, Rajas means activity. Sattva means knowledge, contemplation, gaining knowledge. That is Sattva. So that is done at the Sattvic time. Rajas is when there is activity. Activity, when the sun rises, activity starts. That's where you find in most of the countries there is a traffic jam at 6:30 in the morning. No, 6:30, 6:45 there is traffic jam. Why? All are into activity. And by the time the sun is down, tamasic time starts. That is why the evening time is more. All indulgences start late in the night. So what is the lifestyle? A positive lifestyle. The positive lifestyle is what the English proverb says: early to bed and early to rise. Go to sleep as early as you can. As early as you can. Not 3 o'clock I go to sleep, sir, in the morning. That is the time you are supposed to get ready to wake up. But I am a night bird, sir. People, but I am a nighty. I don't know, that's some word they come up with. I don't know what all they come up with. I am the night bird. I am more alert only in the night. You got to train yourself, and once you train yourself, you are aligning with the natural pattern, and the effort, and the results will be commensurate. That is why in the practical tips of gaining the intellect in the 9th session and little bit in the 10th session also, I'll be talking about these three: Sattvic time, Rajasic time, and the Tamasic time. But to answer your question, Subhash, wake up as early as you can, and go to bed. In fact, I always say, don't worry about waking up early. Plan to go to bed early, because if you go to bed early, waking up is natural. You will wake up fresh. Supposing you go to bed at 12 o'clock and keep an alarm and wake up at 5 o'clock, you will be fatigued, no? So, for all practical purposes, I always say, go to sleep as early as possible. Time wise, maximum 10 o'clock. But life starts at 9 o'clock only, sir. Evening. Yeah. Life starts at 9 o'clock and ends at 4 o'clock. Now, what do we do? Is it okay, Subhash? It's very important. Priya has raised. Yes. Priya, what is your clarification, ma? Priya Sridhar. Is she there? Yeah, Prashant. Prashant has posted a question. Prashant. What is the difference between knowledge from Vedanta, knowledge from Bhagavad Gita? Is there a difference? No. Of the three cardinal textbooks of Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita is one. There are three cardinal textbooks for Vedantic knowledge: the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is in the form of a poetry. Brahma Sutras is in the form of mathematical formulas. Upanishads is in the form of statements. And all the books, all these three combined together is called Vedanta. So in this inner wellness, what I have done is, instead of quoting the text, today only I quoted the text, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verses 62. All that we have been discussing from the first session till date is from the Upanishads and Brahma Sutras and Bhagavad Gita only. Inner wellness means people come, isn't it? Upanishad class, no, but inner wellness. So, but then it is the Vedantic knowledge. Are you able to follow, Prashant? It's all one and the same. The difference is this. Bhagavad Gita is more explanatory. Brahma Sutras is more mathematical, precise they are. They are formulas. Sutra means formula. Bhagavad Gita is more poetic, more lyrical, more analytical. Upanishads makes statements. That's all. Upanishad just makes statements. You can't go on, you can't ask them elaborate it. They'll say, you go and think for yourself and find out the answer. We only make. So all these three put together is called Vedanta. Is it okay, Prashant? And all this inner wellness program is only from these three textbooks, sir. Looks like something new we are saying. No, nothing is new. It is all from that. It's all from those books only. Okay, Prashant? Yeah.
More Sunil Nanda.
Sunil is asking, is joy and happiness same? You can use it synonymously. You can also bring about difference based on the context. Linguistically, they are all the same. Joy, happiness, peace, contentment, bliss, all are synonymous from one angle. Depending on the context, the meaning varies. For example, when I am contacting something, I can say joy or happiness can refer to a general mental state. Depending on the context, the meaning changes. In the normal sense, it's all can be used synonymously. Yeah. Is it okay, Sunilji?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Subhash,
Yes, sir.
how to deal with negative people?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In social place or
Yes.
wherever we work, college or school, it's a very big deal.
Yes. Yes. How to deal with negative people? In order to deal with negative people, you need a strong intellect. If you don't have a powerful intellect, you will not be able to deal with them. Now, negative people are those who has certain qualities, certain attributes that is unpleasant.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Negative people are those who have certain attributes, qualities that are unpleasant.
Yes, sir.
Now, how to deal with that? I need to have a strong
Intellect.
so that I am not affected by it. In order to handle that, first important factor, I shouldn't be affected by it. Only when a person can be objective to that, he can deal with it effectively. And objectivity comes from the strong intellect. So
Okay.
how to deal with negative people? You need to have a strong intellect, because you should not be affected by the negativity first. Then only you can deal with it. Supposing if you yourself is affected, like for example, if you yourself get angry, or if you yourself have hatred, or if you yourself have some kind of a fear, you will not be able to deal with it effectively.
Okay.
So in order to deal with it effectively, you should be objective first.
Okay. Okay.
And practicing objectivity is what in the definition of intellect, if you remember, in the definition of intellect, we say intellect is that which brings about this objectivity. It is that will help you. It comes through some, it comes through some repeated gaining knowledge. Manana, it is called reflection. You reflect on the knowledge that you have received, and that reflection strengthens the intellect, and that strong intellect would be able to help you to guide how to deal with the negative people in every context. It can be family, it can be social, it can be the workplace, anywhere. Is it okay, Subhash? Yeah. With this, that's all, no, Venkat? Yeah. With this, we conclude for today. Next session, we deal with the last diagnostic tool of the intellect. And then we see what is the method to strengthen the intellect. With this, we conclude for